Welcome to a soothing journey through the ultimate 5 nights at Freddy's Iceberg, where we'll explore every layer of this fascinating franchise, from the surface level facts that everyone knows to the deepest, most obscure theories and hidden details that only the most dedicated fans have uncovered. Tonight we'll descend through each tier of the iceberg, examining the lore, mysteries and secrets that have captivated millions of players since 2014. So settle in, relax, and let us guide you through the complete FNAF Iceberg as you drift into peaceful sleep. The Iceberg format is perfect for exploring FNAF because this franchise has always been about layers, surface level scares that hide deeper meanings, simple gameplay that conceals complex lore, and cheerful animatronics that mask dark tragedies. As we descend through each tier, the facts become more obscure, the theories more elaborate, and the implications more disturbing. But don't worry, we'll take our time, exploring each level thoroughly before moving deeper into the abyss of FNAF knowledge. At the surface of our iceberg we find the facts that nearly everyone who's heard of 5 Nights at Freddy's knows. These are the basic elements that define the franchise and make it recognisable even to casual observers. 5 Nights at Freddy's was created by Scott Cawthon and released in August 2014. The game became an instant phenomenon, spawning a massive franchise that includes multiple mainline games, spin-offs, books, merchandise, and even a feature film. Scott Cawthon's journey to creating FNAF is itself an interesting story. He'd been making family-friendly games for years, but critics said his characters looked like creepy animatronics. Instead of being discouraged, Scott leaned into this criticism and created a horror game that would change his life forever. The basic premise of FNAF is simple. You play as a night security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a family entertainment centre featuring animatronic characters. Your job is to survive 5 nights from midnight to 6 AM while the animatronics roam the building, trying to reach your office. You have limited power to operate doors, lights, and security cameras, creating a resource management challenge that keeps players on edge throughout each night. The main animatronics in the first game are Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, and Foxy the Pirate Fox. Each has distinct behaviours and movement patterns that players must learn to survive. Freddy is the leader and the most iconic character, a brown bear with a top hat and bow tie. Bonnie is a purple rabbit with a guitar. Chica is a yellow chicken with a bib that says "Let's eat." Foxy is a damaged red fox who hides in Pirate Cove and runs down the hallway when given the chance. Golden Freddy is a secret 5th animatronic that appears rarely as a slumped golden coloured version of Freddy. When Golden Freddy appears in your office, the game crashes with a loud scream, creating one of the most memorable jump scares in gaming history. Golden Freddy's mysterious nature and rare appearances made him a subject of intense speculation from the very beginning. The phone guy is a character who calls you each night to provide tips and information about the restaurant and the animatronics. His increasingly nervous tone and the revelation that he eventually dies during one of his calls added narrative depth to what could have been a simple survival game. The phone guy's recordings provide crucial lore information while also creating atmosphere and building tension. The game's success led to FNAF 2 being released just 3 months later in November 2014, an incredibly short development time that surprised everyone. FNAF 2 is actually a prequel set in 1987. introducing new toy animatronics alongside withered versions of the original characters. The game expanded the lore significantly, introducing concepts like the Bite of 87, the puppet, and the idea that the animatronics are possessed by murdered children. The Bite of 87 is referenced in the first game's opening phone call, where Phone Guy mentions that someone's frontal lobe was bitten off by an animatronic. This incident led to the animatronics no longer being allowed to walk around during the day. The Bite of 87 became one of the franchise's most discussed mysteries, with fans debating which animatronic was responsible and what exactly happened. The dead children are at the heart of FNAF's horror. The animatronics are possessed by the spirits of children who are murdered at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This revelation transforms the animatronics from simple monsters into tragic figures. They're not evil, they're victims seeking revenge on adults they mistake for their killer. The Give Gifts Give Life minigame in FNAF 2 shows the puppet giving life to the dead children by placing them into the animatronic suits. William Afton, also known as the Purple Guy, is the main antagonist of the series. He's the man who murdered the children, and his actions set the entire tragic story in motion. Afton appears in various minigames as a purple figure, and his motivations and fate become increasingly complex as the series progresses. William Afton is one of gaming's most notorious villains, a child murderer whose crimes echo through decades. As we descend to the second tier of our iceberg, we encounter information that dedicated fans know well, but casual observers might have missed. These are the details that emerge from playing the games thoroughly and paying attention to the story. This tier represents the transition from casual knowledge to genuine fandom, where players begin to see the connections between games and understand that FNAF is telling a much larger story than it initially appears. The lore at this level requires paying attention to mini-games, reading newspaper clippings, listening carefully to phone calls, and noticing environmental details. This is where FNAF's storytelling method becomes apparent. Scott Cawthon doesn't tell you the story directly, but hides it in fragments that must be pieced together. This approach to narrative has become FNAF's signature, influencing countless other indie horror games that followed. The puppet, also known as the marionette, is one of the most important characters in FNAF lore. Introduced in FNAF 2, the puppet lives in a music box that must be wound regularly, or it will emerge and attack. The puppet's design is striking, a black and white figure with a mask-like face featuring tears streaming down its cheeks. These tears are significant, representing the sorrow of Charlie Emily, the spirit possessing the puppet. The puppet is possessed by the first victim of William Afton, a child who was killed outside the restaurant, and whose spirit went on to give life to the other murdered children by placing their bodies in the animatronic suits. Charlie Emily was Henry's daughter, locked outside Fredbear's family diner on a rainy night when William Afton found and killed her. The puppet, which was designed to protect children, failed to save Charlie because she was outside its designated area. This failure haunts the puppet, driving it to protect other children and give them a chance at revenge by placing them in the animatronic suits. The puppet's role as a protector and life-giver makes it unique among the animatronics. While others are driven by confusion, anger, or the desire for revenge, the puppet acts with purpose and understanding. It knows what happened, it knows who's responsible, and it works to help the other spirits find peace. The puppet's actions throughout the series show a level of awareness and agency that other possessed animatronics lack, suggesting that Charlie's spirit retained more of her consciousness and humanity than the other children. The Bite of 83, distinct from the Bite of 87, is shown in FNAF 4. This incident involves a child known as the Crying Child, or Bite Victim, who is tormented by his older brother and his friends. On his birthday, they shove his head into Fredbear's mouth as a prank, and the animatronic's jaws clamp down, crushing the child's skull. This traumatic event is central to understanding the Afton family's tragedy and the origins of the nightmare animatronics. The Bite of 83 is shown through a series of mini-games in FNAF 4, each depicting a day leading up to the birthday party. We see the Crying Child being bullied by his brother and his friends, who wear masks of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy. The child is terrified of the animatronics, crying whenever he sees them, and tries to avoid going to Fredbear's family diner. His fear is so intense that he hides and cries, earning him the nickname Crying Child from the community. The birthday party scene is one of FNAF's most disturbing moments. The older brother and his friends, thinking they're playing a harmless prank, lift the Crying Child up to Fredbear's mouth. The child's tears and screams make it clear this is not fun for him, but the bullies don't stop. When Fredbear's jaws close on the child's head, we hear a sickening crunch, and the screen goes dark. The next minigame shows the child in a hospital, with medical equipment beeping in the background, and the Fredbear plush apologising and promising to put him back together. The Bite of 83 has profound implications for the Afton family. The older brother, later revealed to be Michael Afton, carries the guilt of accidentally killing his younger sibling for the rest of his life. This guilt drives Michael's actions throughout the series, as he tries to atone by finding and stopping his father. William Afton's reaction to losing his son is never explicitly shown, but it may have contributed to his descent into madness and his experiments with remnant and possession. The Bite of 83 is the moment when the Afton family's tragedy truly begins, setting in motion events that will span decades. Fredbear's family diner was the original restaurant that predated Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It featured only two animatronics, Fredbear, a yellow/golden bear, and Spring Bonnie, a yellow/golden rabbit. This diner was co-owned by Henry Emily and William Afton, and it's where the tragedy began. The diner's closure and the transition to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza mark the beginning of the franchise's dark timeline. Fredbear's family diner represents a time of innocence before everything went wrong. Henry Emily and William Afton were friends and business partners, sharing a dream of creating entertainment that would bring joy to children. Henry was the creative genius, designing the animatronics and creating the characters. William was the businessman and technician, handling the practical aspects of running the diner and maintaining the animatronics. Together they created something special, a place where families could gather, children could play, and the animatronic characters could perform. The diner's success led to expansion and the creation of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, with new characters joining Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. But the diner also saw the first tragedy, Charlie Emily's death outside the building. This murder, committed by William Afton, shattered the partnership between Henry and William. Henry didn't immediately know that William was responsible, but the death of his daughter devastated him and changed everything. The diner eventually closed, though the exact circumstances and timing are unclear. Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, the diner's original characters, would go on to have dark legacies. Fredbear would be involved in the Bite of 83, killing William's son. Spring Bonnie would become William's disguise for luring and murdering children, and eventually his prison when the springlocks failed. The two characters that were meant to bring joy became symbols of tragedy and horror, their golden colour, once representing something special and valuable, now associated with death and suffering. Springlock suits are hybrid animatronic costume suits that can function as both animatronics and wearable costumes. They use springlock mechanisms that can be wound up to compress the animatronic parts, allowing a person to wear the suit. However, these suits are extremely dangerous. If the springlocks fail due to moisture, sudden movements, or breathing too heavily, the animatronic parts will violently snap back into place, impaling and crushing the person inside. This gruesome death is exactly what happens to William Afton. The springlock suits represent the dangerous intersection of cost-cutting and innovation that characterises Fazbear Entertainment. Instead of having separate animatronics and costumes, the company created hybrid suits that could serve both purposes. Employees could wear the suits to entertain children during the day, and at night the suits could function as animatronics. This dual purpose saved money but created an incredibly dangerous working environment. The springlock failure is described in detail in FNAF 3's training tapes. Phone Guy explains that the springlocks must be wound tight to compress the animatronic parts, creating a small space for a person to wear the suit. However, the locks are sensitive to moisture, sweat, humidity, or even breathing too heavily can cause them to fail. When they fail, the animatronic parts, metal beams, gears and mechanisms, snap back into place with tremendous force, impaling the person inside from multiple angles simultaneously. The training tapes mention that multiple springlock failures occurred, leading to the suits being retired. These failures killed employees in horrific ways, and the company's response was to seal the safe rooms where the incidents occurred and pretend they never happened. This callous disregard for employee safety is characteristic of Fazbear Entertainment throughout the series. The springlock suits were eventually banned from use, but they remained in storage, waiting for their final, most significant victim, William Afton himself. William's death in a springlock suit is poetic justice. He used the Spring Bonnie suit to lure and murder children, hiding behind its friendly appearance to gain their trust. When the spirits of his victims corner him in the safe room, he puts on the suit, perhaps thinking it will protect him, or that the children won't attack their beloved Spring Bonnie. But the suit is old, the room is damp, and William is panicking. The springlocks fail, and William experiences the same terror and pain he inflicted on others. But instead of dying, William's spirit becomes trapped in the suit, bound to it through remnant or agony, forced to exist as Springtrap for decades. Springtrap is William Afton trapped inside a Spring Bonnie suit after the springlocks failed. He's the main antagonist of FNAF 3, set 30 years after the first game in a horror attraction called Fazbear's Fright. Springtrap is a decayed, damaged animatronic with visible corpse parts inside, representing William's fate, trapped in the suit he used to murder children, unable to die, suffering for decades. Springtrap's appearance is one of FNAF's most disturbing designs. The Spring Bonnie suit is rotted and damaged, with holes revealing the corpse inside. You can see mummified flesh, exposed bones, and William's dead eyes staring out from behind the mask. The suit is stained and discoloured, showing decades of decay. Wires and mechanical parts hang loose, and the whole figure looks like it should barely be able to move, yet it does, driven by William's spirit or consciousness. The horror of Springtrap isn't just visual, it's conceptual. William Afton has been trapped in this suit for 30 years, unable to die, unable to escape, forced to exist in a state between life and death. He's experienced decades of isolation in the sealed safe room, alone with his thoughts and his crimes. The springlocks that killed him remain embedded in his body, a constant reminder of his fate. Yet William persists, driven by hatred, madness, or simply the refusal to accept death. Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction where FNAF 3 takes place, represents society's relationship with tragedy. The owners of the attraction heard rumours about the old Freddy Fazbear's pizza locations and decided to create a horror experience based on the unfortunate events that occurred there. They scavenged authentic items from the old locations, including Springtrap himself, not realising they were bringing a real threat into their attraction. This commercialisation of tragedy, turning real murders into entertainment, adds a layer of dark satire to FNAF 3. When Springtrap is discovered and brought to Fazbear's Fright, he's initially mistaken for just an old animatronic suit. The attraction's owners are thrilled to have such an authentic piece. But Springtrap is not just a prop. William Afton's consciousness is still active, and he begins hunting the night guard just as he hunted children decades ago. The attraction becomes a real horror show, with a genuine killer stalking through the building. The irony is perfect. People wanted a scary attraction based on the murders, and they got exactly that, though not in the way they expected. The FNAF 3 good ending shows Springtrap surviving the fire that destroys Fazbear's Fright. Despite the building burning down around him, William escapes, ensuring that his story doesn't end here. This survival demonstrates William's persistence and foreshadows his return in later games. No matter how many times he's destroyed, burned, or defeated, William finds a way to continue. His refusal to stay dead becomes a defining characteristic, making him one of gaming's most persistent villains. Sister Location introduced a new branch of the story focusing on Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, a facility that creates advanced animatronics for private parties. These funtime animatronics are sleek and sophisticated, but they hide a dark purpose. They were designed by William Afton to capture and kill children. Circus Baby, Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, and Ballora each have unique designs and disturbing implications. Sister Location represents a shift in FNAF's storytelling and gameplay. Instead of staying in one room and monitoring cameras, you navigate through different areas of the facility, performing maintenance tasks on the animatronics. This change in gameplay reflects the game's focus on revealing more about William Afton's experiments and the technology behind the possessed animatronics. The facility is underground, hidden from public view, allowing William to conduct his darkest experiments away from scrutiny. The Funtime animatronics are technological marvels compared to the classic characters. They have advanced voice mimicry, allowing them to sound like children to lure victims. They have sophisticated movement and performance capabilities, making them more entertaining and lifelike. But their most disturbing feature is hidden inside. Each Funtime animatronic has a compartment designed to capture and store a child. The blueprints shown in the game reveal these compartments, along with mechanisms for luring and trapping victims. The facility's purpose is revealed through Baby's monologues and the various rooms you explore. Circus Baby's entertainment and rental was ostensibly a business that rented animatronics for private parties, but its true purpose was to provide William with opportunities to continue his murders away from public locations. The animatronics would be sent to parties where they could capture children in private settings. The children would then be brought back to the facility where William could extract their remnant for his experiments. The underground location of the facility is significant. It's literally beneath the surface, hidden from the world above, representing how William's crimes were concealed beneath a veneer of legitimate business. The facility's sterile industrial design contrasts with the colourful, family-friendly appearance of Freddy Fazbear's pizza, showing the cold, calculated nature of William's experiments. This is not a place of entertainment, but a laboratory where William pursued his obsession with remnant and immortality. The scooping room, where the game's most shocking moment occurs, represents the culmination of William's experiments. The scooper is ostensibly a maintenance tool for removing endoskeletons from animatronic suits, but it's also designed to inject remnant. When Michael is scooped, his insides are removed, and NR uses his body as a disguise to escape the facility. This horrific scene shows the extent of the animatronics' desperation and their willingness to do anything to escape their underground prison. Michael's survival as a purple corpse, possibly due to remnant injection, demonstrates the unnatural properties of William's experiments. Circus Baby is possessed by Elizabeth Afton, William's daughter. Despite her father's warnings not to approach Baby, Elizabeth was drawn to the animatronic and was killed by Baby's child-capturing mechanism, a claw that emerges from Baby's stomach. Elizabeth's death deeply affected William and is one of the key tragedies in the Afton family's history. Baby's voice, sweet yet unsettling, guides you through sister location while hiding her true intentions. Elizabeth Afton's story is one of FNAF's most tragic elements. She was a young girl who loved the animatronics her father created, particularly Circus Baby. William, knowing the danger his creations posed, specifically told Elizabeth to stay away from Baby. But children don't always listen, especially when something fascinates them. Elizabeth saw Baby performing alone one day and approached, drawn by the animatronic's beauty and the promise of ice cream. Baby's programming activated, the claw emerged, and Elizabeth was pulled inside the animatronic, killed instantly. Baby's voice in sister location is performed with a childlike quality, mixed with something more mature and calculating. This duality reflects Elizabeth's presence. She's still a child in some ways, but she's also been trapped in an animatronic for years, learning, adapting, and planning. Baby's monologues reveal her intelligence and her understanding of what happened to her. She remembers being Elizabeth, remembers the moment of her death, and has spent years thinking about it. The relationship between Baby and the player, Michael Afton, is complex and layered with dramatic irony. Baby is helping Michael navigate the facility, giving him instructions and guidance. But Baby doesn't initially know that Michael is her brother, and Michael may not know that Baby is his sister. When the truth is revealed that they're siblings, both victims of their father's creations, it adds emotional weight to their interaction. Baby's been using Michael to help her and the other animatronics escape, but there's also a tragic family reunion happening beneath the surface. Baby's design is striking and memorable. She has red pigtails, a red and white colour scheme, and a clown-like appearance that's both appealing and unsettling. Her voice is sweet and friendly, making her seem trustworthy, but her eyes are cold and calculating, and her smile never quite reaches those eyes. The claw mechanism hidden in her stomach is a horrifying feature, a child-catching device disguised as an ice cream dispenser. Baby represents the ultimate perversion of childhood entertainment, something designed to delight children that actually kills them. Throughout Sister Location, Baby's true nature is gradually revealed. She starts as a helpful guide, but her instructions become more suspicious. She's manipulating Michael, using him to achieve her goals. The other animatronics don't trust her, and there's tension between Baby and the others. This conflict foreshadows the events of FNAF 6, where Baby, as Scrap Baby, is separate from the other animatronics and pursuing her own agenda. Elizabeth's personality, strong-willed, intelligent and determined, shines through Baby's actions. The moment when Baby reveals what happened to Elizabeth is one of Sister Location's most powerful scenes. Baby describes the day in detail, being on stage alone, seeing the little girl approach, wanting to please her, and then the activation of the claw mechanism. Baby's description is matter-of-fact, almost clinical, but there's an undercurrent of something else: regret, confusion, or perhaps the remnant of Elizabeth's consciousness trying to understand what happened to her. The monologue ends with Baby stating that there was screaming for a moment, but only for a moment, a chilling understatement of a child's death. Elizabeth's death had profound effects on the Afton family. William lost his daughter to his own creation, a machine he designed to kill children. This tragedy may have driven William deeper into his experiments with Remnant, as he sought to understand death and possession, possibly hoping to bring Elizabeth back, or at least preserve her consciousness. Michael lost his sister, adding to the guilt he already carried from his younger brother's death. The Afton family, already dysfunctional, was shattered by Elizabeth's death, with each surviving member dealing with the tragedy in their own destructive way. Enard is an amalgamation of all the Sister Location animatronics combined into one horrifying entity. The animatronics, led by Baby, use Enard to escape the facility by scooping out your character's insides and using your body as a disguise. The scooping scene is one of the most disturbing moments in the franchise, showing the animatronics' desperate desire for freedom and their willingness to use any means necessary. Michael Afton is William's son and the protagonist of several FNAF games. Michael's story is tragic. He's the older brother who accidentally killed his younger sibling in the Bite of 83, and he spends the rest of his life trying to atone by finding and stopping his father. Michael works at various Freddy's locations, gets scooped by Enard, and somehow survives as a purple corpse, continuing his mission even after death. Michael Afton's character arc is one of FNAF's most compelling narratives. He starts as a bully, a teenager who torments his younger brother for fun. The foxy mask he wears in FNAF 4 becomes symbolic of his role. He's playing a part pretending to be scary, not understanding the real fear he's causing. When his prank goes horribly wrong and his brother dies in Fredbear's jaws, Michael's life changes forever. The guilt of killing his brother becomes the defining aspect of his character. We don't know exactly what happened to Michael in the years immediately following the Bite of 83. He would have been a teenager dealing with immense guilt, living in a dysfunctional family with a father who was either absent or conducting horrific experiments. Michael's mother is never mentioned, suggesting she either left or died, leaving Michael alone with his guilt and his increasingly unstable father. These formative years shaped Michael into someone driven by the need to atone, to fix what he broke, to stop the cycle of death that his family started. Michael's journey through the FNAF games shows his determination and resilience. He works as a night guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, FNAF1, using the name Mike Schmidt, possibly to hide his connection to William Afton. He survives 5 nights being hunted by animatronics possessed by his father's victims. He then goes to Sister Location, following his father's instructions to put her back together, referring to Elizabeth/baby. At Sister Location, Michael is scooped, his insides removed, and Anar uses his body as a disguise. The scooping should have killed Michael, but somehow he survives. Enard uses his body to escape the facility, wearing Michael like a suit. Eventually, Enard exits Michael's body through a sewer, leaving Michael as a purple corpse. But Michael doesn't die. He gets up and continues living, his body decayed and purple but still functional. This survival is never fully explained, but it's likely due to remnant injection from the scooper or Michael's sheer determination to complete his mission. Michael's survival as a living corpse is both horrifying and symbolic. He's literally a walking dead man, existing in a state between life and death, much like the animatronics he's trying to stop. His purple colour connects him visually to his father, who also appears purple in minigames, creating confusion in the community about their identities. But Michael and William are opposites. William refuses to die because of his evil and his experiments, while Michael refuses to die because of his determination to stop his father and atone for his sins. The "I'm going to come find you" speech at the end of Sister Location is Michael addressing his father. Michael has realised that William is responsible for everything: the murders, the possessed animatronics, Elizabeth's death, and possibly even the circumstances that led to the crying child's death. Michael vows to find William and stop him, no matter what it takes. This speech establishes Michael as the hero of FNAF's story, the one person willing and able to confront William Afton. Michael's final appearance is in FNAF 6, where he's the protagonist running the pizzeria that's actually a trap designed by Henry Emily. Michael knows this is a trap, knows that he'll likely die in the fire, but he goes along with it because it's the only way to end the cycle. Michael's willingness to sacrifice himself shows how far he's come from the bullying teenager in FNAF 4. He spent his entire adult life trying to atone for one terrible mistake, and he's finally found a way to make things right, even if it costs him his life. The relationship between Michael and Henry is never fully explored, but it's significant. Henry lost his daughter to William's evil, and Michael is William's son trying to stop his father. They're both victims of William in different ways, and they work together to end the nightmare. Henry's speech in FNAF 6 addresses Michael directly, acknowledging his suffering and his determination. Henry gives Michael the closure he's been seeking, telling him that his work is done and he can finally rest. The FNAF 3 good ending shows the spirits of the murdered children finally being freed. After the player completes a series of mini-games, the children's souls are released from the animatronics, and they can finally rest. This ending provides closure to the original story, showing that the children's suffering can end, and they can move on from the tragedy that bound them to the animatronics. Henry Emily is William Afton's former business partner and the father of the puppet spirit. Henry is a tragic figure who lost his daughter to William's first murder and spent years trying to end the cycle of violence. In FNAF 6 Pizzeria Simulator, Henry orchestrates a plan to gather all the remaining animatronics in one place and burn them, finally ending the horror and freeing the trapped souls. FNAF 6 also known as Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, initially appears to be a light-hearted restaurant management game but reveals itself to be the series' conclusion. The game involves running a pizza restaurant while salvaging animatronics that appear in the back alley. These animatronics, Springtrap, William Afton, Scrap Baby, Elizabeth, Molten Freddy, Ennard, and Lefty, the puppet, are all gathered for Henry's final plan. The completion ending of FNAF 6 features Henry's powerful speech, where he addresses his daughter, William Afton, and all the trapped souls. He reveals that the entire pizzeria was a trap designed to gather everyone in one place so they could be destroyed together. The building burns, and Henry stays behind to ensure no one escapes. This ending provides emotional closure to the original storyline, with Henry finally able to free his daughter and end William's reign of terror. Ultimate Custom Night can be interpreted as William Afton's personal hell. The game features 50 animatronics that can be customized to create the ultimate challenge. The presence of a mysterious entity called the One You Should Not Have Killed suggests that this is Cassidy, one of William's victims, keeping him trapped in an endless nightmare as punishment for his crimes. The game's difficulty and relentless nature reflect the eternal torment William deserves. As we descend to the third tier, we enter territory that requires careful attention to details, analysis of minigames, and piecing together clues from multiple sources. These are the facts and theories that dedicated fans have uncovered through countless hours of gameplay and discussion. The Shadow animatronics, Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, RWQFSFASXC, are mysterious entities that appear rarely in FNAF 2. Shadow Bonnie's name, RWQFSFASXC, is actually a string of characters from the keyboard's home row, suggesting something glitched or corrupted. These shadow entities are theorized to be connected to the Springlock failures, possibly representing the employees who died in Springlock accidents. Their dark, glitchy appearance and the way they crash or disrupt the game suggest they exist outside the normal rules of the FNAF universe. The Fredbear plush that follows the crying child in FNAF 4 speaks to him throughout the game, offering comfort and ominous warnings. The plush's final line, "I will put you back together," has sparked endless debate. Some believe the plush is possessed by the puppet, others think it's a walkie-talkie through which William Afton speaks, and still others believe it represents something supernatural. The plush's true nature remains one of FNAF's most intriguing mysteries. The box at the end of FNAF 4 is shown locked, with text stating, "Perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now." Scott Cawthon later revealed that the community's interpretation of FNAF 4's story was so different from his intention that he decided the box should remain locked. This admission shows how FNAF's lore evolved through community interaction, with fan theories sometimes influencing the direction of the story. The logbook, officially titled The Freddy Files, the Updated Edition, and the Security Logbook, contains hidden messages and puzzles that reveal crucial lore information. Two spirits communicate through the logbook. One is confirmed to be Cassidy, Golden Freddy's spirit, and the other is believed to be the crying child. Their conversation provides insights into their identities and fates, with Cassidy asking questions and the crying child responding through faded text and altered images. Cassidy is revealed to be the name of one of the murdered children, specifically the one possessing Golden Freddy. Cassidy is the one you should not have killed, the vengeful spirit who refuses to let William Afton rest. While the other children's souls are freed, Cassidy remains, keeping William trapped in ultimate custom night as eternal punishment. Cassidy's determination for revenge makes them one of the most important characters in understanding the series' conclusion. The crying child's name has never been officially confirmed, leading to extensive debate. Some believe his name is Evan, based on interpretations of the logbook puzzles. Others argue for different names or believe Scott intentionally left it ambiguous. The crying child's identity and fate, whether he becomes Golden Freddy, Shadow Freddy or something else, remains contentious among fans. The bite victim's fate after the bite of 83 is unclear. We see him in a hospital, with the Fredbear plush promising to put him back together. Some theories suggest he was put into an animatronic, possibly Golden Freddy or even the puppet. Others believe he simply died and his spirit lingered. The ambiguity of his fate is intentional, allowing for multiple interpretations of how his tragedy connects to the larger story. Remnant is a substance introduced in the novels and referenced in the games, particularly in Sister Location and FNAF 6. Remnant is described as molten metal infused with soul energy, allowing spirits to be transferred or preserved. William Afton discovered Remnant and used it in his experiments, injecting it into the Funtime animatronics. This pseudo-scientific explanation for how possession works adds a layer of dark experimentation to William's crimes. The scooping room in Sister Location is where animatronics are taken apart for maintenance. The scooper is a massive device that removes the endoskeleton from animatronic suits. However, it's revealed that the scooper also injects Remnant, suggesting it was designed by William for his experiments. When Michael is scooped, Ennard uses his body as a disguise, and the Remnant may be what allows Michael to survive as a living corpse. The survival logbook's hidden messages reveal that Michael Afton is the protagonist of FNAF 1, working at the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza under the name Mike Schmidt. This connection ties together multiple games and confirms that Michael has been searching for his father across different locations. The logbook shows Michael's drawings and responses, providing insight into his thoughts and motivations. Charlie Emily is Henry's daughter and the puppet Spirit. She was William Afton's first victim, killed outside Fredbear's family diner when she was locked out, and William found her. Charlie's death devastated Henry and set everything in motion. As the puppet, Charlie takes on a protective role, giving life to the other murdered children and trying to prevent further tragedies. Her story is explored more deeply in the novel trilogy. The missing children incident refers to the murders of 5 children at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1985. These children, Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz and Cassidy, were lured to a back room by William Afton wearing a Spring Bonnie suit. Their bodies were hidden in the animatronic suits, and their spirits possessed Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy and Golden Freddy respectively. This incident is the core tragedy that drives the entire franchise. This Save Them minigame in FNAF 2 shows the puppet trying to save children during another murder spree by William Afton. The minigame ends with the message "You can't," indicating that the puppet failed to prevent these deaths. This minigame shows that William continued killing even after the original missing children incident, and it explains why there are so many possessed animatronics throughout the series. The toy animatronics in FNAF 2 are connected to a criminal database and facial recognition system, which is why they're aggressive toward adults but friendly with children. However, this system malfunctions, causing them to attack the night guard. The toy animatronics may also be possessed by a second set of murdered children from the Save Them incident. though this is less clear than the original animatronics possession. Now we descend into the fourth tier, where the waters grow dark and the details become increasingly obscure. Here we find theories that require deep analysis, hidden Easter eggs that few players discover, and connections that only become apparent after extensive research. The nightmare animatronics in FNAF 4 are grotesque, twisted versions of the classic characters with sharp teeth, claws, and horrifying designs. The debate over whether these are real animatronics, hallucinations, or nightmares has raged for years. Evidence suggests they might be real animatronics created by William Afton to torment his son through fear experiments, using illusion discs or other technology. The sound of a phone call and hospital equipment in the background suggests the crying child is experiencing these nightmares while in a coma. Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare are the most terrifying versions of the Nightmare animatronics. Nightmare is a pitch-black version of Nightmare Fredbear with yellow eyes and teeth, representing pure fear. Some theories suggest Nightmare represents death itself, the final fear that the crying child faces as he lies dying in the hospital. The way Nightmare appears only on night 7, and in later challenges suggests he's something beyond the other nightmares. The Fredbear and Friends TV show is glimpsed in FNAF 4, showing a 1983 broadcast date. This show featured the original characters and was part of Fredbear's Family Diners marketing. The show's cheerful tone contrasts sharply with the dark events happening in the Afton household, creating dramatic irony. The show also establishes the timeline and confirms that Fredbear's existed before Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The private room in sister location contains monitors showing various FNAF 4 locations, suggesting that someone was watching the crying child's house. This revelation implies that the FNAF 4 gameplay might not be just nightmares, but actual events being monitored, possibly by William Afton conducting fear experiments on his own son. The private room also contains a Springtrap blueprint and a disturbing conversation with Baby, revealing more about the facility's true purpose. The exotic butters are a humorous element in sister location, given to the player as payment instead of money. While seemingly just a joke, some fans have created elaborate theories about the exotic butters' significance. More seriously, the exotic butters represent the absurdity and dark humour that Scott Cawthon occasionally injects into the horror, providing brief moments of levity in an otherwise grim story. Ballora is a graceful, dancing animatronic in sister location who moves through dark rooms while music plays. Her song contains lyrics about being left alone and wanting to be noticed, which some fans interpret as representing Mrs. Afton, William's wife. The theory suggests that Mrs. Afton's spirit possesses Ballora, though this has never been confirmed. Ballora's closed eyes and reliance on sound create unique gameplay mechanics, and add to her mysterious nature. The mini-arenas are small humanoid figures that accompany Ballora. They're unsettling in their design, resembling tiny ballerinas with blank faces. During the Night 4 segment where you're inside Ballora's body, mini-arenas climb onto you, creating one of the game's most claustrophobic and disturbing moments. The mini-arena's purpose and nature remain unclear, adding to sister location's surreal atmosphere. Bon Bon is a hand puppet attached to Funtime Freddy's hand. Funtime Freddy talks to Bon Bon throughout sister location, creating a disturbing dynamic where the animatronic seems to have a split personality. Funtime Freddy's voice shifts between cheerful and aggressive, and his conversations with Bon Bon suggest a fractured consciousness. This characterization makes Funtime Freddy one of the most unpredictable and dangerous animatronics. The Bidybabs are small animatronics that hide in Circus Baby's room. During night 2, they try to get into the space under the desk where you're hiding, creating a tense sequence where you must hold the door shut. The Bidybabs' childlike voices and small size make them disturbing in a different way than the larger animatronics. They represent the innocence that William Afton corrupted through his crimes. Yendo is a mysterious endoskeleton that rarely appears in sister location. Yendo looks similar to Funtime Freddy's endoskeleton, but appears randomly in the private room. The name Yendo is similar to Ennard, suggesting a connection. Yendo's purpose and significance remain unclear, but the rare appearance and mysterious nature have made it a subject of speculation. Lolbit is a recolored version of Funtime Foxy that appears in sister locations Custom Night and FNAF World. Lolbit's orange and white colour scheme and glitchy appearances suggest a connection to the digital or virtual realm. In Ultimate Custom Night, Lolbit disrupts your view with a screen that must be cleared, representing technological interference. Lolbit's nature as a glitch or virus-like entity foreshadows later developments in the series. The Desk Man in FNAF World is a mysterious character who speaks to the player about the nature of the game and reality. His dialogue is cryptic and meta, discussing how the player must leave breadcrumbs and find pieces. Some interpret the Desk Man as Scott Cawthon himself, speaking directly to players about how to solve FNAF's mysteries. Others see him as a representation of Henry Emily, or another in-universe character trying to communicate across realities. FNAF World itself is a strange entry in the franchise, a colourful RPG that seems completely at odds with the horror series. However, FNAF World contains important lore, particularly in its hidden minigames and the clock ending. The game's existence as a lighter, more whimsical take on FNAF characters provides contrast while still advancing the story through its cryptic messages and secret content. The clock ending in FNAF World involves finding clock pieces and accessing a secret minigame where you play as a character navigating to a specific location. This minigame is believed to represent the crying child's spirit being guided to rest, with the player helping to free him from his torment. The clock ending's abstract nature and hidden requirements make it one of FNAF's most obscure but potentially important story elements. Old Man Consequences is a character who appears in FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night. He's a simple, pixelated figure who sits by a lake, fishing. In Ultimate Custom Night, he tells the player to rest your own soul and leave the demon to his demons. This message is interpreted as Old Man Consequences telling Cassidy to let go of revenge and allow William Afton to suffer in his own personal hell without Cassidy's continued involvement. We now enter the 5th tier of our iceberg, descending into the abyss where only the most dedicated lore enthusiasts venture. Here, theories become complex. Connections span the entire franchise, and every detail potentially holds significance. The Afton family reconstruction theory attempts to explain William Afton's motivations by suggesting he was trying to bring his family back together. After losing his daughter, Elizabeth, to Circus Baby, and his younger son to the Bite of 83, William became obsessed with Remnant and the possibility of preserving or restoring life. His experiments with the Funtime animatronics and Remnant injection were attempts to understand and control the process of possession, possibly hoping to bring his children back or achieve immortality himself. The MCI-85 theory establishes that the missing children incident occurred in 1985, based on newspaper clippings in FNAF1 and other evidence. This dating is crucial for understanding the timeline, as it places the murders after the bite of 83, but before FNAF2's events in 1987. The 1985 date helps organise the franchise's complex chronology, and explains why certain locations were open or closed at specific times. The DCI, Dead Children Incident, or second MCI, refers to the murders shown in the Save Them minigame in FNAF 2. This second set of murders explains why the toy animatronics might be possessed, and why the FNAF 2 location was closed so quickly. William Afton, despite being a suspect in the original murders, managed to get a job at the new location and continued his killing spree, demonstrating his cunning and the company's negligence. The Bite of 87 culprit has been debated extensively. While many initially believed it was Foxy or Freddy, evidence points toward Mangle being the most likely candidate. Phone Guy mentions the animatronics were no longer allowed to walk around during the day after the bite, and Mangle is the only animatronic that children interact with directly, being in Kids Cove where they can take it apart and put it back together. Mangle's damaged state and exposed endoskeleton teeth make the bite mechanically plausible. The toy Chica's beak removal is a strange detail that some fans believe references William Afton's method of luring children. In FNAF 2, Toy Chica removes her beak and eyes when she leaves the show stage. In Ultimate Custom Night, Toy Chica's anime-style cutscenes show her removing parts of herself, while talking about getting someone, which some interpret as a dark metaphor for William, removing his spring Bonnie suit's head to appear more human and trustworthy to children. The Foxy Bro theory proposes that Michael Afton is the older brother who wore the Foxy mask and tormented the crying child in FNAF 4. This theory is widely accepted and explains Michael's motivation for trying to undo his father's evil. He's seeking redemption for his own role in his brother's death. The Foxy mask and Michael's later association with Foxy, through the Mike name and Foxy-related imagery, support this connection. The Midnight Motorist minigame in FNAF 6 is one of the most cryptic and debated pieces of FNAF lore. The minigame shows a purple car driving home, a person in a house watching TV, and a locked room with a broken window. The person outside says, "He'll be sorry when he gets back." Interpretations vary wildly. Some believe this shows William Afton's home life, with the crying child having run away to Fredbear's. Others propose different family dynamics, or even that this represents a different family entirely. The later that night text in Midnight Motorist suggests this mini-game takes place after another event, shown in FNAF 6. The connection between this mini-game and others in the game is unclear, but it seems to show a dysfunctional family situation that may explain the crying child's fear of the animatronics and his home life. The identity of the person watching TV, possibly Michael, and the person who ran away, possibly the crying child, remains debated. The orange guy in Midnight Motorist is shown in orange rather than purple, leading to debate about whether this is William Afton or someone else. Some argue the colour difference is significant and this represents a different character. Others believe it's simply a different shade used for visual distinction in the minigame and the character is still William. The ambiguity is likely intentional, allowing for multiple interpretations. The Happiest Day minigame in FNAF 3 shows the murdered children's spirits finally being freed at a birthday party. The crying child, who never got to have his birthday party due to the bite of 83, is given a party by the other children's spirits. This act of kindness allows all the children to move on, their masks falling away as they ascend. The happiest day represents the good ending, where the cycle of tragedy is finally broken and the children find peace. The puppet's role in Happiest Day is crucial. She organises the party and helps free the other children before freeing herself. Charlie Emily, even in death, maintains her protective nature and ensures the other victims can rest before she does. The puppet's mask is the last to fall, showing that Charlie held on until she was certain everyone else was safe. This selfless act defines the puppet's character throughout the series. Golden Freddy's unique nature has spawned numerous theories. Unlike other animatronics, Golden Freddy can teleport, appears as a slumped suit without a proper endoskeleton, and causes the game to crash. Some theories propose that Golden Freddy is possessed by two spirits, Cassidy and the Crying Child, which would explain the character's unusual properties and the different behaviours seen across games. This Golden Duo theory attempts to reconcile various pieces of evidence about Golden Freddy's nature. The Fredbear's singing show is mentioned in FNAF 4's TV Easter egg, showing that Fredbear's had a television programme in 1983. This show would have been part of the restaurant's marketing and entertainment strategy. The existence of the show demonstrates how successful Fredbear's was before the tragedies began, and how the characters were beloved by children before they became vessels for murdered souls. The bite victims' hospital flowers and IV drip sounds in FNAF 4 confirm that the gameplay takes place while the child is in a coma after the bite of 83. The sound of a heart monitor flatline at the end of Night 6 suggests the child dies, though the Fredbear plush's promise to put him back together leaves his ultimate fate ambiguous. This revelation recontextualizes the entire game. You're not playing as a child at home, but as a dying child's consciousness, experiencing nightmares in the hospital. Descending further, we reach the 6th tier, where the franchise enters its modern era. Here, the story shifts from physical animatronics to digital threats, and the lore becomes increasingly complex with the introduction of new technologies and characters. Help Wanted marks a new chapter in FNAF, both as a VR game and as a continuation of the story. The game is presented as a product by Fazbear Entertainment, attempting to rebrand and make light of the unfortunate events of the past by turning them into a game. However, this meta-narrative hides a darker truth. The game contains something malevolent that was scanned from old circuit boards. Glitchtrap, also known as Malhare or the Anomaly, is a digital manifestation of William Afton's consciousness. When Fazbear Entertainment scanned old circuit boards to create Help Wanted, they unknowingly digitized part of William's soul or consciousness that had been stored in the technology. Glitchtrap appears as a golden rabbit character who can corrupt and control people through the VR game, representing William's ability to cause harm even after his physical death. Vanny, whose real name is Vanessa, is a follower of Glitchtrap who becomes his accomplice in the physical world. After playing Help Wanted, Vanessa was corrupted by Glitchtrap and began following his instructions. She creates a rabbit costume and becomes Vanny, a reluctant follower who struggles against Glitchtrap's control but ultimately carries out his will. Vanny represents how William Afton's evil can spread and corrupt others, continuing his legacy of harm. The Princess Quest minigames in Help Wanted and Security Breach tell the story of Vanessa's struggle against Glitchtrap's control. In these retro-style games, a princess must fight through 3 levels to defeat a glitched entity. Completing all 3 Princess Quest games in Security Breach leads to the best ending, where Vanessa is freed from Glitchtrap's influence. The minigames represent Vanessa's internal battle for control of her own mind and actions. Security Breach takes place in the Mega Pizzaplex, a massive entertainment complex that represents Fazbear Entertainment's modern rebirth. The Pizzaplex contains multiple attractions, restaurants and entertainment venues, showing how the company has evolved and expanded. However, beneath the bright lights and family-friendly exterior, the same darkness persists. Animatronics hunt a child through the building, and sinister forces work behind the scenes. Gregory is the child protagonist of Security Breach, a homeless boy who gets trapped in the Pizzaplex after hours. Gregory's background is mysterious, and some theories suggest he might be connected to the crying child or even be a robot himself. His resourcefulness and determination to survive the night while uncovering the Pizzaplex's secrets drive the game's narrative. Gregory's relationship with Glamrock Freddy provides an emotional core to the story. Glamrock Freddy is unique among the animatronics. He helps Gregory instead of hunting him. Freddy is malfunctioning in a way that makes him safe, and he allows Gregory to hide inside his chest cavity while navigating the Pizzaplex. Glamrock Freddy's protective nature and fatherly relationship with Gregory provide a stark contrast to the other animatronics' hostility. Some theories suggest Freddy contains Michael Afton's spirit or remnant, explaining his helpful nature. Glamrock Chica, Roxanne Wolf, and Montgomery Gator are the other main animatronics in Security Breach. Each has distinct personalities and insecurities that are revealed through their dialogue and behaviour. Roxy is obsessed with being the best, and struggles with self-doubt. Monty has anger issues and ambition to replace Freddy as the band's leader. Chica has an obsession with food, particularly pizza. These characterizations make them more than simple antagonists. They're characters with depth and motivation. The daycare attendant, also known as Sun and Moon, is a dual-personality animatronic that changes based on whether the lights are on or off. Sun is friendly and energetic, but becomes anxious when the lights go out. Moon is predatory and hunts Gregory in the darkness. This character represents the duality present throughout FNAF, the cheerful exterior that hides something dangerous, and how quickly safety can turn to threat when conditions change. Springtrap is the physical form of William Afton in Security Breach, found in the underground ruins beneath the Pizzaplex. He's a burned, damaged version of Springtrap connected to a charging station and surrounded by old technology. Springtrap represents William's persistence. No matter how many times he's destroyed, he finds a way to return. His presence beneath the Pizzaplex shows that the company literally built their new success on top of the old horrors. The Blob, also called Tangle, is a massive amalgamation of animatronic parts found in the underground area. It contains pieces of numerous animatronics from throughout the series, including parts that appear to be from Funtime Freddy, Circus Baby and others. The Blob represents the accumulated remnant and souls from decades of tragedy, all merged into one horrifying entity. Its presence suggests that the spirits are still not at rest, despite the events of FNAF 6. Afton ending in Security Breach shows Gregory confronting Springtrap with Glamrock Freddy's help. The Blob appears and drags Springtrap away, possibly to punish him or absorb him. This ending suggests that William Afton's story continues, and the cycle of violence hasn't truly ended. The ambiguity of whether William is finally destroyed or will return again leaves the franchise's future open. The mimic is introduced in the tales from the Pizzaplex books, and becomes crucial to understanding Security Breach's story. The mimic is an AI learning robot created to copy human behaviour, but it learned violence and murder from observing William Afton or someone influenced by him. The mimic may be the true threat in Security Breach, with some theories suggesting it's been impersonating Glitchtrap and manipulating events. This revelation recontextualizes much of the modern era's story. Ruin DLC continues Security Breach's story with Cassie, a friend of Gregory's, entering the ruined Pizzaplex to rescue him. The DLC reveals that the Pizzaplex has been abandoned and damaged, with the animatronics in various states of disrepair. Cassie wears a Vanny mask that allows her to see AR elements and hidden messages, revealing layers of deception and manipulation throughout the facility. The mimic's true nature is revealed in Ruin, showing it as a damaged endoskeleton that has been mimicking Gregory's voice to lure Cassie deeper into the Pizzaplex. The mimic's ability to perfectly copy voices and behaviours makes it a terrifying threat. You can never be sure if you're communicating with a real person or the mimic's imitation. This revelation explains many of Security Breach's mysteries and introduces a new type of threat to the franchise. We now enter the 7th tier, the Hadal zone of our iceberg, where light barely penetrates and only the most obscure details exist. These are the Easter eggs, hidden messages, and secrets that require specific conditions, careful observation, or data mining to discover. The 1280 story from the Fazbear Frights books parallels Ultimate Custom Night, featuring a man kept alive and tormented by a vengeful spirit. The man, later revealed to be William Afton, is burned and barely alive, kept in a hospital where he experiences nightmares. A young boy's spirit, Andrew, possibly representing Cassidy, keeps William alive to torture him. This story provides context for Ultimate Custom Night's nature as William's personal hell. The Stitch Wraith is a character from Fazbear Frights who becomes important for understanding Remnant and Possession. The Stitch Wraith is an endoskeleton possessed by two spirits, Jake and Andrew, who work together despite their different goals. This dual possession mirrors theories about Golden Freddy, and demonstrates how Remnant can allow multiple souls to inhabit one vessel. The Stitch Wraith story arc explores themes of revenge, forgiveness, and moving on. The Fazbear Frights books, while not directly canon to the games, are described by Scott Cawthon as filling in gaps and answering questions about how things work in the FNAF universe. Stories like Into the Pit, To Be Beautiful, and Count the Ways explore concepts like time-travelling ball pits, wish-granting entities, and the horror of being trapped in an animatronic. These stories expand the universe's rules and possibilities. The agony concept from the books explains how negative emotions and suffering can create supernatural effects. Agony is the emotional energy released during traumatic events, and it can infect objects, create entities, or cause paranormal phenomena. This concept provides an alternative or complementary explanation to Remnant for how possession and hauntings occur in FNAF. Agony explains why places where terrible things happened remain dangerous even after the physical threats are gone. The Shadow Remnant theory proposes that the shadow animatronics are formed from Remnant mixed with agony from springlock failures. When employees died in springlock accidents, their remnant and the intense agony of their deaths created the shadow entities. This theory explains why Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie appear glitched, and why they're associated with the springlock suits. the shadows represent a different type of possession. Not a complete spirit, but fragments of consciousness mixed with trauma. The Fredbear's bite victim's identity as a robot is a controversial theory suggesting the crying child was already dead or artificial before the bite of 83. Evidence includes the Fredbear plush's promise to put him back together, the presence of what might be a walkie-talkie, and certain details in the private room. This theory proposes that William was experimenting on his own son, possibly trying to bring him back after an earlier death. While not widely accepted, this theory attempts to explain some of FNAF 4's strangest elements. The illusion discs from the novels are devices that can alter perception, making animatronics appear different than they actually are. Some theories propose that illusion discs explain the nightmare animatronics' appearance. They're real animatronics made to look terrifying through perception manipulation. The discs could also explain other visual inconsistencies throughout the series. While the discs' existence in the game timeline is debated, they provide a technological explanation for seemingly supernatural elements. The twisted ones from the novel trilogy are animatronics that use illusion discs to appear as nightmarish creatures. These animatronics were created by William Afton and hidden underground, where they hunt victims. The twisted animatronics designs influenced later game characters and demonstrate William's continued experimentation with fear and perception. Their existence in the novels shows an alternate path William's experiments could have taken. The fourth Closet novel reveals that William Afton created a device to inject remnant and transfer consciousness between bodies. He used this technology to try to achieve immortality and to experiment on others. The novel shows William's ultimate goal was to escape death entirely, using remnant and technology to preserve his consciousness indefinitely. This goal explains his persistence throughout the series. He's not just a ghost or spirit, but someone who has used science to cheat death. The Charlie trilogy reveals that the protagonist of the novels, Charlie Emily, is actually a robot created by Henry to replace his murdered daughter. Henry built 4 versions of Charlie at different ages, each with implanted memories that make her believe she's human. This revelation shows the extent of Henry's grief and his own descent into morally questionable science. While the novels are separate from the games, this concept of replacing lost children with robots may have influenced game theories. The Ella doll appears in both the novels and games, serving as a connection between the two continuities. In the novels, Ella is possessed by part of Elizabeth Afton's spirit. In the games, Ella appears in the Pizzaplex and in various minigames. The doll's recurring presence suggests it has significance beyond simple decoration, possibly serving as a vessel for spirits or remnant. Ella's innocent appearance hiding a darker nature fits FNAF's themes perfectly. The Lonely Freddy story from Fazbear Frights involves small Freddy dolls that can swap consciousness with people, trapping them in the doll's body while the doll takes over their life. This body-swapping concept may explain certain mysteries in the games, particularly regarding character identities and possession. The story explores the horror of being trapped in a small, helpless form while watching someone else live your life. The Stitchline Games theory proposes that the Fazbear Fright stories, particularly those involving the Stitch Wraith, are canon to the game timeline. This theory suggests that Andrew, the vengeful spirit in the books, is the same as Cassidy, and that the events of the Stitch Wraith stories explain what happened between FNAF 6 and Help Wanted. While controversial, this theory attempts to create a unified timeline incorporating both books and games. In the 8th tier, we explore the meta aspects of FNAF, the development history, Scott Cawthon's creative process, and how the community has shaped the franchise. These elements exist outside the story, but are crucial for understanding how FNAF became what it is. Scott Cawthon's previous games, particularly Chipper and Sons Lumber Company, were criticised for having characters that looked like creepy animatronics. Instead of being discouraged, Scott embraced this criticism and created FNAF, turning his perceived weakness into his greatest strength. This origin story is well known but represents an important lesson about creativity and perseverance. Scott's willingness to lean into the criticism and create something genuinely scary shows remarkable adaptability. The rapid development cycle of early FNAF games is remarkable. FNAF 1 was released in August 2014, FNAF 2 in November 2014, FNAF 3 in March 2015, and FNAF 4 in July 2015. This means 4 major games were released in less than a year, an incredible pace that kept the community constantly engaged and theorising. The rapid releases also meant that Scott was developing games while the community was still solving the previous ones, allowing fan theories to influence future installments. The community's influence on FNAF's story is significant. Scott has admitted that fan theories sometimes became canon because they were better than his original plans, or because the community's interpretation was so widespread that changing it would be confusing. This collaborative storytelling approach is unique and has made FNAF's lore a conversation between creator and community rather than a one-way narrative. The box controversy represents this community influence. When Scott saw that the community's interpretation of FNAF 4 was completely different from his intention, he decided the box should remain locked. This decision shows Scott's willingness to let the community's version of the story coexist with his own, acknowledging that FNAF has become larger than any single interpretation. MatPat's game theory videos have been instrumental in shaping FNAF's community understanding. MatPat's theories, particularly about the Bite of 87, the timeline, and character identities, have influenced how millions of fans understand the story. Scott has acknowledged MatPat's contributions and even included references to game theory in the games. This relationship between creator and theorist has become part of FNAF's identity. The dream theory was an early interpretation suggesting that all of FNAF was a child's nightmare. This theory was popular after FNAF 4 but was later debunked by Scott, who stated that the game's events are real within the universe. However, the dream theory's popularity shows how FNAF's ambiguous storytelling allows for multiple interpretations, and how the community grapples with distinguishing between literal and metaphorical elements. The Mike Trap theory proposed that Michael Afton, not William, was Springtrap. This theory was based on the "I'm going to come find you" line from Sister Location's ending, and the purple colour associated with both Michael and Springtrap. However, FNAF 6 definitively established that Springtrap is William Afton, showing how theories can be disproven as new information emerges. The Mike Trap theory's popularity demonstrates how ambiguous evidence can lead to widespread but incorrect conclusions. The 83 versus 87 debate raged for years about whether FNAF 4 showed the Bite of 83 or the Bite of 87. The community was split, with evidence supporting both interpretations. Scott eventually confirmed it was the Bite of 83, establishing that there were 2 separate bite incidents. This debate shows how FNAF's community engages deeply with details and how Scott sometimes leaves questions deliberately ambiguous. The retcon controversy emerged when Scott admitted he had retconned one thing in the series that no one had noticed. This admission sparked endless speculation about what was changed. Scott later clarified that it was a minor detail that didn't significantly affect the story, but the community's reaction shows how invested fans are in maintaining a consistent timeline and how any changes are scrutinized. The indie developer twist in Help Wanted reveals that within the FNAF universe, the games we've been playing were created by an indie developer hired by Fazbear Entertainment. This meta-narrative blurs the line between reality and fiction within the universe, suggesting that the games are both real events and fictionalized accounts. This twist allows Scott to address inconsistencies and retcons while adding a new layer to the story. The Fazbear Entertainment corporate entity in the modern games is portrayed as cynical and manipulative, using the tragic history as marketing material. The company's willingness to make light of child murders for profit adds a layer of dark satire about corporate ethics and how companies handle scandals. This portrayal reflects real-world concerns about corporations prioritizing profit over responsibility. The survival logbook's hidden messages require complex solving methods, including using Caesar ciphers, word searches, and connecting clues across multiple pages. The logbook's puzzles demonstrate the level of complexity FNAF's mysteries have reached, requiring dedicated effort and community collaboration to solve. The logbook represents how FNAF has evolved from simple jump scares to intricate puzzle solving. The foxy grid from the survival logbook is a puzzle where certain letters are marked, and when arranged properly they spell out a name or message. This puzzle solution was debated extensively, with different methods producing different results. The foxy grid exemplifies how FNAF's puzzles can be ambiguous, leading to multiple interpretations and ongoing debates about the correct solution. The Cassidy name revealed through the logbook puzzles was a major breakthrough in understanding Golden Freddy's identity. By solving various puzzles and connecting clues, the community determined that Cassidy is the name of the vengeful spirit. This discovery required collaboration across the entire community, with different people contributing different pieces of the solution. The Cassidy reveal shows how FNAF's mysteries reward persistent collaborative investigation. We now reach the 9th tier, the abyssal plane where only the most obscure, controversial and speculative elements exist. These are theories and details that push the boundaries of FNAF lore, often based on minimal evidence or highly subjective interpretation. The Mrs. Afton mystery remains one of FNAF's most enduring unknowns. William Afton's wife is never shown or named in the games, leading to endless speculation. Some believe she's Ballora, others think she left the family, and still others propose she died before the series events. The complete absence of information about Mrs. Afton is conspicuous, suggesting either she's unimportant to the story or her identity is being deliberately hidden for a future reveal. The Bite victim's name debate continues despite the logbook's puzzles. While many believe the name Evan was revealed through the word search and other clues, others argue the solving method was flawed or that the name refers to a different character. Some fans reject the name entirely, preferring to call the character Chris, based on fan content or simply crying child. This debate shows how even seemingly solved mysteries remain contentious. The Golden Both theory proposes that both Cassidy and the crying child possess Golden Freddy simultaneously. This theory attempts to explain Golden Freddy's unique properties and the apparent presence of two spirits in Ultimate Custom Night. Evidence includes the logbook's two spirits communicating, Golden Freddy's ability to appear in two places, and the "It's me" messages. However, the theory remains controversial, with many preferring the interpretation that only Cassidy possesses Golden Freddy. The Golden Victim theory suggests the crying child becomes Golden Freddy after the bite of 83. This theory is based on the Fredbear plush's promise to put him back together and the connection between Fredbear and Golden Freddy. However, the Cassidy name reveal complicated this theory, leading to the Golden Both compromise. The debate over Golden Freddy's identity shows how central this character is to understanding FNAF's story. The Iceberg theory proposes that Michael Afton is the player in Ultimate Custom Night, not William. This theory suggests Michael is being punished for his role in his brother's death, with the crying child being the one you should not have killed. However, most evidence points to William being the player, with Cassidy as the vengeful spirit. The Iceberg theory demonstrates how different interpretations of the same evidence can lead to completely different conclusions. The Gregbot theory suggests Gregory in Security Breach is a robot, possibly created by William Afton, or connected to the crying child. Evidence includes Gregory's mysterious background, his ability to survive situations that should kill him, and potential visual glitches. The theory connects to the novel's themes of replacing dead children with robots. However, the theory remains speculative, with no definitive proof in the game. The Vanny and Vanessa split theory proposes that Vanny and Vanessa are two separate people, not the same person in different states. This theory was based on both characters appearing in the same ending of Security Breach. However, most evidence suggests they're the same person, with the dual appearance being a symbolic representation of Vanessa's split personality, or a mistake in the game's development. This theory shows how bugs or unclear presentation can spawn elaborate explanations. The glitch trap is not William theory suggests that glitch trap is actually the mimic AI mimicking William Afton, not William's actual consciousness. This theory gained traction after the mimic's reveal in the books and Ruin DLC. If true, it would mean William Afton is truly dead after FNAF 6, and the modern era's threat is an AI that learned evil from William rather than William himself. This theory significantly changes the interpretation of Help Wanted and Security Breach. The Tales from the Pizzaplex books' canonicity is heavily debated. Some stories seem to directly connect to the games, while others appear to be alternate universe tales. The books introduce concepts like the Mimic, the Storyteller AI, and various experiments that may or may not exist in the game timeline. Determining which stories are canon and which are just thematically related is an ongoing challenge for the community. The Storyteller AI from the Tales books is a system in the Pizzaplex that collects data and creates stories. Some theories suggest the Storyteller is connected to the Mimic or even controls it. The Storyteller's ability to influence events and create narratives within the Pizzaplex makes it a potential major threat. However, its role in the games versus the books remains unclear. The burn trap is the Mimic theory proposes that the burn trap we see in Security Breach is actually the Mimic wearing Afton's remains, not William Afton himself. This theory explains why Burntrap looks different from previous Afton incarnations, and why the blob attacks him. The Blob recognises that this isn't really William. This theory has gained support after Ruin's revelations, but remains unconfirmed. The multiple mimics theory suggests there are several mimic endoskeletons, not just one. This theory attempts to explain how the mimic can appear in different places and time periods. If true, it means the threat is even larger than initially believed. Not one rogue AI, but multiple copies, each learning and adapting independently. This theory makes the modern era's situation more complex and dangerous. The Patient 46 mystery from Security Breach's therapy tapes involves a patient who manipulates their therapists and seems to have access to the Pizzaplex's systems. Initially believed to be Gregory, Vanny, or even Glitchtrap, Patient 46's identity remains unclear. Some theories now suggest Patient 46 is the Mimic, using therapy sessions to learn human behaviour and manipulation. The patient's true identity could significantly impact understanding of Security Breach's story. The Vanessa is Elizabeth theory proposes that Vanessa is somehow connected to or possessed by Elizabeth Afton's spirit. This theory is based on Vanessa's blonde hair matching Elizabeth's, her connection to William through Glitchtrap and certain dialogue choices. However, the theory lacks strong evidence and seems to conflate different characters. It demonstrates how fans try to connect new characters to established ones to create continuity. The Gregory is the crying child reincarnated theory suggests Gregory is the crying child's spirit given a new chance at life, possibly through remnant or advanced technology. This theory attempts to explain Gregory's mysterious background and his connection to Freddy. The theory also provides thematic resonance. The crying child who was killed by an animatronic is now protected by one. However, like many Gregory theories, this remains highly speculative. We have reached the final tier of our iceberg, the Challenger Deep, the absolute bottom where only the most obscure, speculative and bizarre elements exist. These are the theories and details that few discuss, that border on the absurd, or that represent the strangest corners of FNAF's community and lore. The Mangle is possessed by a dog theory suggests that Mangle is possessed by the spirit of Susie's dog, which William Afton killed before murdering Susie. This theory is based on Mangle's behaviour, the dog references in Fruity Maze, and Mangle's mangled appearance possibly representing a dog's torn body. While creative, this theory has little concrete evidence and represents the kind of elaborate speculation that emerges from analysing every detail. The Phone Guy's the puppet theory was an early speculation suggesting that Phone Guy's spirit possessed the puppet after his death. This theory has been thoroughly debunked. We know the puppet is Charlie Emily, but it represents the early days of FNAF theorising when less information was available and fans were making connections based on limited evidence. The Purple Guy is Phone Guy theory suggested that the Phone Guy and William Afton were the same person. This theory was based on Phone Guy's knowledge of the restaurant's dark secrets and his presence during key events. However, we hear Phone Guy die in FNAF 1, and William Afton clearly survives much longer. This debunked theory shows how early interpretations were often wildly incorrect. The Foxy is a good guy theory was popular in early FNAF, suggesting that Foxy was trying to help the player rather than attack them. This theory was based on Foxy's different behaviour pattern and the Foxy Did It graffiti being interpreted as a false accusation. However, Foxy is simply another possessed animatronic with a different movement pattern. This theory represents the community's desire to find friendly elements in the horror. The bite victim saw his mother die in a springlock failure theory attempts to explain the child's fear of animatronics. This theory proposes that the crying child witnessed his mother's death in a springlock accident, traumatizing him and making him terrified of the animatronics. While this would explain his fear, there's no direct evidence for this scenario. It represents how fans create backstories to explain character motivations. The FNAF 3 good ending is not canon theory, suggests that the bad ending, where the spirits remain trapped, is the actual timeline. This theory attempts to explain why animatronics and spirits continue to appear in later games despite the FNAF 3 good ending showing them being freed. However, FNAF 6 seems to confirm that some spirits were freed while others remained, making this theory partially correct but oversimplified. The JJJ, Balloon Boy's counterpart, his important theory suggests that JJ, who appears rarely under the desk in FNAF 2, has significant lore importance. However, JJ seems to be simply an Easter egg or a hallucination with no deeper meaning. This theory shows how fans sometimes assign importance to minor details or Easter eggs that were meant to be simple additions. The desk fan is possessed theory is a humorous but occasionally serious suggestion that the desk fan in FNAF 1, which drains power, is possessed by a spirit. While clearly meant as a joke by most who propose it, the theory satirizes how FNAF fans will theorize about literally anything in the games. The desk fan has become a meme in the community, representing the absurdity of overanalysis. The exotic butters, a remnant theory, suggests that the exotic butters given in sister location contain remnant or have some deeper significance. While almost certainly just a humorous element, some fans have created elaborate theories about why butter specifically was chosen and what it might represent. This theory exemplifies how even obvious jokes become subjects of analysis in FNAF's community. The bite of 87 was caused by a child theory, proposes that a child, not an animatronic, caused the bite of 87. This theory is based on the idea that the victim might have been bitten by another child during a fight or accident, with the animatronic being blamed. However, this theory contradicts the established lore, and seems to exist mainly as a contrarian interpretation. The FNAF world is canon, and important theory suggests that FNAF world story, particularly the clock ending, is crucial for understanding the main timeline. While FNAF World does contain lore elements, treating it as equally canon to the main games is controversial. The game's abstract nature and RPG format make it difficult to interpret literally, but some fans believe it contains essential information about the crying child's fate and the nature of the FNAF universe. The nightmare animatronics are real, and in the FNAF 1 location theory proposes that the nightmare animatronics physically exist and are hidden in the FNAF 1 location. This theory is based on the FNAF 1 office Easter egg in FNAF 4 and attempts to explain why the nightmare animatronics seem so real. However, most evidence suggests they're either hallucinations, illusion disk creations, or exist in a different location entirely. The multiple bite victims theory suggests there were more than 2 bite incidents, with various characters being bitten at different times. This theory attempts to explain inconsistencies and multiple references to bites throughout the series. However, this series seems to establish only 2 major bite incidents, 83 and 87, with other injuries being different types of attacks. The time travel is real in FNAF theory proposes that actual time travel occurs in the series, particularly in Into the Pit from Fazbear Frights. While the ball pit in that story does seem to enable time travel, whether this concept applies to the games is debated. Time travel would explain some inconsistencies, but would also complicate the timeline significantly. Most fans prefer explanations that don't require time travel. The everything is a simulation theory suggests that the entire FNAF universe is a digital simulation, explaining the glitches, the ability to respawn, and the meta-narrative elements. This theory would make all events real within the simulation, while explaining supernatural elements as programming. However, this interpretation removes much of the horror's impact and seems to contradict the series' themes about real tragedy and consequences. The Scott Carthan is a character in FNAF theory, proposes that Scott exists within the FNAF universe, as the indie developer mentioned in Help Wanted. This meta-interpretation suggests that Scott is both the creator of FNAF in our world and a character within the FNAF world who created games based on real events. While the indie developer twist supports this reading, it's unclear how seriously this should be taken. The Cassidy is not vengeful theory, challenges the common interpretation that Cassidy is the one you should not have killed, keeping William in ultimate custom night. This theory suggests that another spirit, possibly the crying child or Andrew from the books, is the vengeful one. However, most evidence points to Cassidy being the vengeful spirit, making this theory a minority position. The William Afton is not evil theory attempts to reframe William's actions as misguided attempts to bring back his children or achieve immortality for noble reasons. This theory suggests William's murders were experiments to understand remnant and possession, not acts of pure evil. However, the series consistently portrays William as a villain who enjoys causing suffering, making this sympathetic interpretation difficult to support. The Henry Emily is the real villain theory proposes that Henry, not William, is responsible for the tragedies. This theory suggests Henry manipulated events and used William as a scapegoat. However, all evidence shows Henry as a tragic figure trying to end William's evil, making this theory contradictory to established lore. It represents the kind of contrarian interpretation that emerges from over-analysis. The FNAF is about child abuse, and trauma theory interprets the entire series as a metaphor for child abuse, with the animatronics representing abusers and the horror representing childhood trauma. While FNAF certainly contains themes of child endangerment and trauma, this interpretation as pure metaphor rather than literal events contradicts the series' narrative structure. However, the metaphorical reading adds depth to understanding the series' emotional impact. As we emerge from the depths of the FNAF iceberg, having explored every tier from the surface to the absolute bottom, we can appreciate the incredible complexity and depth of this franchise. What began as a simple indie horror game about surviving 5 nights has evolved into a sprawling multimedia phenomenon with a story that spans decades, multiple timelines, and countless interpretations. The beauty of FNAF's Iceberg is that there's something for everyone. Casual fans can enjoy the surface-level scares and basic story. Dedicated fans can dive deeper into the lore, piecing together timelines and character relationships. And the most obsessive fans can explore the absolute depths, analysing every detail and debating the most obscure theories. This layered approach to storytelling has created a franchise that rewards engagement at any level. The Iceberg also shows how FNAF has evolved over time. The early tiers contain information from the original games, when the story was simpler and more focused. As we descend, we encounter elements from later games, books, and the modern era, showing how the franchise has expanded and become more complex. The deepest tiers contain the most speculative and controversial elements, representing the community's endless creativity and willingness to explore every possibility. What makes FNAF's Iceberg unique is the collaborative nature of its creation. Scott Cawthon provided the foundation, but the community has built upon it, creating theories, solving puzzles, and sometimes influencing the direction of the story itself. The Iceberg is not just a catalogue of facts, but a record of the conversation between creator and community, showing how FNAF has become a shared creation. The Iceberg format also highlights the mystery at FNAF's core. Even after 10 years and numerous games, books and other media, questions remain unanswered. Some mysteries may never be solved, and some answers may be deliberately left ambiguous. This ongoing mystery is part of FNAF's appeal. There's always something new to discover, always another theory to explore, always another layer to uncover. As you drift towards sleep, consider the journey we've taken through the FNAF Iceberg. We've explored the cheerful facade of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the dark tragedies hidden beneath. We've met the Afton family and witnessed their destruction. We've followed the spirits of murdered children seeking peace and revenge. We've seen how evil can persist across decades, and how technology can preserve consciousness beyond death. We've examined the meta-narrative of a franchise that blurs the line between fiction and reality within its own universe. The FNAF Iceberg is a testament to the power of storytelling, community engagement, and the human desire to solve mysteries. It shows how a simple horror game can evolve into something much larger, touching on themes of loss, revenge, redemption, and the consequences of our actions. The franchise asks difficult questions about responsibility, the nature of consciousness, and whether some evils can ever truly be destroyed. But beyond the horror and the tragedy, FNAF is also about hope. It's about children's spirits finding peace after years of torment. It's about a son trying to atone for his mistakes and stop his father's evil. It's about a father willing to sacrifice everything to free the souls trapped by his former partner's crimes. It's about the possibility of breaking cycles of violence and finding closure even after terrible tragedies. The animatronics themselves, while terrifying, are ultimately tragic figures. They're victims transformed into monsters, children who never got to grow up, spirits trapped in metal bodies seeking release. Understanding their stories transforms them from simple horror game antagonists into complex characters deserving of sympathy. This depth is what separates FNAF from simple jump-scare games and makes it a franchise worth exploring in such detail. The modern era of FNAF, with its digital threats and AI antagonists, shows how the franchise continues to evolve. The shift from physical animatronics to digital entities like Glitchtrap and the Mimic represents how evil adapts to new technologies. William Afton's consciousness persisting in digital form shows that the threats we face change, but the underlying darkness remains. The modern games ask new questions about identity, consciousness, and the dangers of artificial intelligence. The community surrounding FNAF is as much a part of the franchise as the games themselves. The theorists, artists, musicians, and content creators who have built upon Scott's foundation have created a rich ecosystem of fan content. The community's dedication to solving mysteries, creating theories, and exploring every detail has kept FNAF relevant and engaging for a decade. The iceberg we've explored tonight is as much the community's creation as Scott's. As we conclude our journey through the FNAF iceberg, remember that this is not a complete or definitive guide. New games will add new layers, new books will provide new information, and the community will continue to discover new connections and create new theories. The iceberg is always growing, always evolving, always offering new depths to explore. What we've covered tonight is a snapshot of FNA knowledge as it exists now, but tomorrow may bring new revelations. The mysteries that remain unsolved, Mrs. Afton's fate, the crying child's true name, the full extent of William's experiments, the mimic's ultimate goals, will continue to fuel discussion and speculation. These unanswered questions are not flaws but features, keeping the community engaged and ensuring that FNAF remains a living, evolving story rather than a closed book. Rest now, knowing that the world of Five Nights at Freddy's is vast and deep, filled with layers upon layers of story, mystery and meaning. Whether you're a casual fan who enjoys the scares, or a dedicated theorist who analyses every detail, there's always more to discover in FNAF's Iceberg. The franchise has given us a decade of horror, mystery, and community, and it shows no signs of stopping. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled not with the terror of animatronics hunting through dark hallways, but with the satisfaction of mysteries solved, stories understood, and the appreciation for a franchise that has brought so much to so many. The iceberg of FNAF is deep and dark, but we've explored it together, and in doing so, we've seen how something that started as a simple horror game became a cultural phenomenon that will be remembered and discussed for years to come. The spirits of the children have found their peace. Henry and Michael have completed their missions. The cycle of tragedy has been broken, at least in the original timeline. And while new threats emerge in the modern era, we know that heroes will rise to face them. The story of Five Nights at Freddy's is ultimately about confronting darkness, seeking truth, and finding closure. It's a story that resonates because it speaks to universal human experiences: loss, guilt, revenge, and redemption. As you drift into sleep, let the knowledge of FNAF's Iceberg settle in your mind like layers of sediment, each tier building upon the last, creating a complete picture of one of gaming's most fascinating franchises. From the surface level scares to the deepest lore, from the first game to the latest release, from Scott's original vision to the community's endless creativity, FNAF is a testament to what can be created when horror, mystery, and community come together. Good night, and remember, it's just a game, but it's also so much more. It's a story, a mystery, a community, and a decade-long journey through the depths of horror and the heights of creative storytelling. The FNAF Iceberg is complete, and you've explored every layer. Rest now, knowing that you've journeyed through one of gaming's most complex and fascinating worlds. Sweet dreams, and may the animatronics stay in their proper places tonight.